Madam Chairman, thank you for convening today's hearing, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for appearing today. If I could, I'd like to follow up on a line of questioning that Congressman Stivers had relating to the USMCA. If you could we're going to face the option of passing it or not passing it in this Congress. What is the effect to our economy if we do, in fact, pass the USMCA? And conversely, what is the effect to the economy if we fail to pass the USMCA?
I don't actually have a precise evaluation for you of what the effects of passage would be. Overall, it's pretty similar to NAFTA. So I would imagine that the longer-term differences, the differences will show up over the longer term. I think the effects of not passing it would really depend on what happens to NAFTA. If NAFTA were then to be terminated, there could be quite a lot of uncertainty. And I think there is some uncertainty now about what's going to happen. I think the passage of it would remove that uncertainty, and that would be a good thing.
And it would also be positive for our farmers and our ag communities if USMCA were passed.
Yes, I think it would.
Do you have an opinion how the passage or the non-passage of the USMCA affects our leverage with China in negotiations and trade negotiations?
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to comment on those negotiations, and I don't really have an answer for you on that.
In the next several weeks, purportedly, we're going to be voting on a proposal to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. There was a CBO report that came out in the last day or so that estimated that a raise in the minimum wage to $15 an hour should cut 1.3 million jobs up to 3.7 million jobs. What would the effect be to the economy if Congress were to pass a minimum wage bill of raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour?
The question of the minimum wage is really one for you. I think there are a range of studies that have different outcomes, but like the CBO study, what they tend to show is that a number of people get higher wages and a number of people lose their jobs. And those numbers will change depending on what assumptions you make. And it really is something that there is no consensus among economists. Economists are all over the place on this. So it's really a question for you to sort of look at. I would look at a range of studies and not take any single one, and I would weigh that and say, are the benefits worth the likely costs?
What is the effect to the economy if 1.3 million people lose their jobs or 3.7 million people lose their jobs as a result of the rise in minimum wage to $15 an hour?
Well, it would depend on, again, there would be costs and benefits. We know that some people would get higher wages, and presumably they'd be better off and they'd spend more. So it's not a judgment that we make. On net, it's a judgment that you have to make, that there'll be people who are made better off by it, and those are all the people who have the higher minimum wage, but there will be a number of people who lose their jobs because that's what will happen, I think, empirically.
Would the Federal Reserve be concerned if 1.3 million people to 3.7 million people lost their jobs because minimum wage was raised to $15 an hour?
Again, Mr. Kustoff, we do not take a position. We never have taken a position on the minimum wage, and we would take whatever decision you make as the decision that we would put into our models, and we would just take it as a given. We wouldn't express either support or disapproval.
When I'm back home in West Tennessee, what I hear generally from employers, small, medium, and large, the economy's good, we're making money, we're making more money than we made in 20 or 30 years. We can't find enough employees, we can't find employees with soft skills, we can't find employees who have the skills we need for the jobs, we can't find employees who can pass a drug test. Specifically, and you've talked about this publicly, the effect of the opioid crisis on the workforce. What is your feeling with that, and how does the opioid crisis affect the workforce?
An extraordinary number of people are taking opioids in one form or another, and it weighs on labor force participation, largely but not exclusively on younger males, also younger women. And it's a national crisis, really. And I mean, there's the humanitarian aspect of it is completely compelling, but the economic impact is also quite substantial.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.